Now, because new technologies had remarkably slow adoption rates in those days, there were many skeptics about the success of the cellular telephone business, even mostly skeptics, for again, the idea that you could adopt a new technology that would have the sort of impact that cellular would come to have. Well, people hadn't been taught to think that way. They'd been taught to think incrementally, logically, and the great cost of cellular for the chance of making a phone call sooner than later didn't seem like much of a benefit to that way of thinking. Well, I was lucky enough to be there in the pioneer days of the business and delighted by my good fortune to be there in the pioneer days of the business, for I saw that bringing a phone along in your car would be useful in so many ways that we would discover later. Though not being a technologist, I did appreciate the dramatic impact that the reduction in size of the phone would have, and always laughed at the idea that someone would walk down the street talking on their cellular phone. Well, just as the FCC was working on granting licenses for each market, a nationwide demand study for cellular was completed on a market-by-market basis. I think it was underwritten by Motorola, who was a major player in the early days of cellular. In our first market, the Research Triangle, the area that's made up of Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill and Cary, it was predicted that both companies combined, by this market research study, it was predicted that both companies combined would have 1,000 customers by the end of the first year of operations. Well, we started marketing about 60 days before our network was live, and we had 500 customers signed up the day that our system went active, and we had nearly 1,500 customers on our network after 12 months. But when you consider how poorly quantitative research measures a consumer's ability to predict behavior towards a brand new product, the numbers aren't surprising. One of the most successful launches of a technology for an office ever, in terms of being measured by the owning a market that it creates, was Xerox. And there was it's an interesting story about the market research that Xerox undertook before they launched their first office copier. Before they launched their first office copier, the common technology in the office for making multiple copies of a business document was a typewriter and carbon paper. And because of the force at which a key could hit the paper, only 3 copies were available. You'd put in one piece of carbon paper in a second page, another piece of carbon paper in a third page, and you were able to produce 3 copies of your document, the original and the 2 copies. And so when Xerox came out with a market research project to see how many people would appreciate a technology that would allow them to create 5 copies, 10 copies, 25 copies, 50 copies of that document, nobody wanted it. Everybody said it was an unnecessary technology. The market research predicted it would be a massive failure because nobody could contemplate, nobody could imagine a world in which you would need more than 3 copies. They had structured all of their businesses, all of their information processing around the existence of 3 copies, and when somebody came along and told them you could have 25 copies, the response was, well, that just seems purely wasteful and totally unnecessary. So we were benefits of, we at our cellular company benefited from that inaccuracy that market research inevitably will have when trying to measure a consumer's reaction to something that they've never seen before, because again, in our market, the market research predicted that only 1,000 people would want cellular service. We were able to attract ourselves, again, 1,500 customers after the first year.